Welcome to Table for One. I'm the narrator, and in today's video, I'll be doing a rules refresher for Dune Imperium. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to play the Rise of Ix expansion when combining it with the Dune Imperium base game. Let's get rolling. So I am ready to teach you how to play the Rise of Ix expansion for Dune Imperium. Now in this video, I'm specifically going to be covering how to use Rise of Ix with the original Dune Imperium, not Dune Imperium Uprising. I think they can be integrated, but I'll get to that perhaps later after I've opened my Uprising box. And then this video assumes you already know how to play Dune Imperium, the base game. If you don't, I've got a video on that already. You can find a link to that here. And finally, this being Table for One, my focus is going to be on the solo version of Rise of Ix, but if you're playing at a different player count, I will try my best to point out any differences. And as always, I have chapter markers down in the description if you want to jump to a particular part, but let's get going. So currently I'm set up to, or mostly set up to play a solo game of Dune Imperium using the base game with a couple of notable exceptions. But I've got here for my leader, Elisa Ikaz. Surely I'm pronouncing that wrong. I have played with this leader. She was really fun. I like this one. I would definitely use it again. But these two leaders here, Prince Vernius and Viscount Moritani, these are the only two new leaders with Rise of Ix that are compatible with being rivals in the solo mode or in the two-player mode. So if you want to use old leaders from Dune Imperium, of course you can continue to use those that are compatible, but the only two new ones that are compatible as rivals are Prince Vernius and Viscount Moritani. So I've got them set up here with the first player token on the rival to my left as per the normal setup requirements. So there are some new pieces on the table here. Each of the players has these two new Dreadnoughts, and then each player has one additional cylinder here. And so we'll go over those pieces in a bit. We do have new Intrigue cards here, and the Intrigue cards, along with all of the other new cards introduced to Dune Imperium, if you want to tell them apart from your base game cards, they have these two little dots in the bottom right corner. So these are all the new Intrigue cards, and you can see they've all got the two little dots there. So the first thing you do is you take all of the new Intrigue cards and all of the old Intrigue cards from the base game. You can see they do not have the two dots in the bottom right corner. And you just shuffle these two decks together. And that's really convenient. You don't need to remove any special cards, no other special instructions, just completely shuffle them together. Right now I'm just going to set the Rise of Ix ones aside. So if you ever want to separate them out, look for the two little dots, you can do that. But otherwise, you use all of the Rise of Ix ones and all of the base game ones. Same thing goes for the Imperium Row cards. Both that in the bottom right corner, they've all got the two dots, so you can tell them apart. And again, you just take the Imperium Row and you mix it, you shuffle it together with all of the Imperium Row cards from the base game. And there's, again, no special instructions there. It's really nice and simple. And so you create one deck. Though I will note there is something called Epic Game Mode. I'll talk about that at the end. Rise of Ix comes with these four Control the Spice cards, and this symbol in the upper right means Epic Game Mode. If you're not playing Epic Game Mode, just take these cards and put them back in the box. You're not going to use them. So I've got that Imperium card back. If you're playing the Epic mode, these, you can tell by this symbol in the top left, are actually going to be starting cards. So they'll never be in this Imperium Row here, but I'm gonna put these back in the box. We'll talk about that at the end. Now, Rise of Ix also introduces a game variant called Imperium Row Churn, and it uses D6 dice. If you have two D6, I've just got this one, and one will work just fine. But if you want to use that mechanic, which I strongly recommend, we're going to set that die there, and I guess we'll just talk about it now. So usually there are 5 cards in the Imperium Row here that are on offer that players can purchase during their reveal turn. Now, of course, the rivals do not purchase any of these cards, and so the problem that you can run into when you're playing solo is if you don't want any of these cards, it'll never refresh, and it'll just kind of get stuck until you end up purchasing something that you don't want just to draw a new card. So the Imperium Row Churn variant is really simple. After you take your reveal turn as the solo player, then you take your reveal turn, purchase any cards you want, replace as normal. When you are completely done with that, you take your 2 d6s, or your 1 in my case, and I'm just going to use it twice, and you roll it. All right, we get a 2. So these cards are numbered in their positions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I got a 2. You remove card number 2, roll it again. We got a 3, remove card number 3, and they're just trashed, and then you replace them. Now, if you were to roll a 6, then you don't remove anything. And if you were to roll the same number twice, let's say I rolled a 3, and then I rolled a 3 again, only that one card would go away. And then again, we would refill the Imperium Row. So I really like that. It's super simple. It keeps these things moving. It means it's not totally reliable. If you see something out there that you might want, you better grab it because it can go away. So I really like that. I'm going to use it in my solo playthroughs going forward. So I'm just going to leave that D6 there. And so next, let's talk about conflict cards. So Rise of Ix comes with 4 new conflict cards, 2 level 1s, a level 2, and a level 3. And again, they will have the 2 little dots in the bottom right corner so you can identify them easily. So what the rules suggest are that you take the 1s and just shuffle them into the 1s, the 2 and shuffle it into the 2s, the 3, shuffle it into the 3s, and then build your conflict deck as you normally would. So do note that in the base game, you would always use 4 level 3 conflicts, and there were only 4, so it was easy to just say use all of them. That is no longer the case. You no longer use all of them because now you have 5, and you're only going to use 4. So you're going to shuffle these up. Maybe you've got the Rise of Ix one in there. You probably do. 1, 2, 3, 4. The last one you set aside. Then we take our level 2s, and we add our 1 new level 2 card from Rise of Ix. We're going to shuffle it up. And we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's it, 5. And then we take our 2 level 1 cards. We put them in with the original 4 level 1 cards. Mix them all up, and we're going to need just 1 of these. So that will make our deck of 10 conflict cards. Let's see if I did that right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Great. Then, because I like to play on the veteran difficulty or the medium difficulty setting, I'm going to take the top 1, 2, 3, 4 cards off of this deck, set it down, and then place the 2 additional rival agents there. And then I'll place these cards back on top. 1, 2, 3. I lost one. There it is. 4. So on the first round of the game, this is what we're going to be playing for. And then when we eventually flip this conflict card and reveal these, as usual, they immediately will go to the rivals. So that is how they gain their 3rd agent. All right, so that is set up. And in the meantime, I don't want to knock this over, so I'm going to take these agents out of here, but you understand that step now. Let's start looking at some of the bigger pieces now. So the next piece is going to be this CHOAM overlay, which is this board here that is going to cover the Landsraad Council and the CHOAM spaces from the original board. So let me just set them below first so we can see what it's doing. The High Council space is remaining exactly the same. The Mentat space is exactly the same. The Swordmaster space is exactly the same, but the Rally Troop space and the Hall of the Oratory go away, and then the Sell Melange and Secure Contracts also go away and are replaced with Smuggling and Interstellar Shipping, and then this new Freight Track or Shipping Track. So we're going to take this and cover this here, and this is where this is going to sit now. So a couple things. We've got some new icons. We've got a new track here. And on this track, that's where we're going to place these new cylinders, 1 in each player color. So we're going to place these at the bottom of this track. And you might faintly see this symbol here, matches this symbol here, and it's twice here. And if we look at some of these new conflict cards, you'll see that this symbol is in there as well. That is the shipping symbol. So let's talk about how that works. It's pretty cool. So whenever you take the shipping action, whenever you take this action with this icon here, you have two options. You can either take your cylinder and move it up one space on this shipping track, and there are 1, 2, 3 spaces to go up, and then there's the empty space at the bottom. So you can either go up. So in this case, my only option would be to go up. That's the only thing I can do. In this case, you could do two things. The second thing you can do is you can bring it all the way back down to the bottom. Now, when you bring your token back to the bottom of the shipping track, you gain the rewards listed to the right. And if you are more than one level up, you gain the rewards listed to the right and all rewards below it. So let's go through all of the rewards. On the bottom space, you can either gain 2 spice, that's pretty straightforward, or you can gain 5 Solari. But if you gain 5 Solari, all other players gain 1 Solari. And in solo mode with the rivals, that works the same way as it would in a multiplayer game. So if I take 5 Solari, each of the rivals also gets 1 Solari. If the rivals ever take that, whenever they take this option, they never take spice, they always take Solari. And if Prince Vernius here were to take Solari, you would gain 5, Viscount Moritani would gain 1, and I would gain 1. So it works the same with rivals as it would with other players. If you're up at the second space and you decide to recall it, not only do you gain the bottom reward, but then you also gain this middle reward. You can recruit 2 troops to your garrison, and you can advance any 1 influence track. And I should point out that when you are gaining multiple rewards, multiple tiers of rewards, you can gain those rewards in any order. So the third top tier is this symbol here is to gain a technology. We're going to talk about technologies in a little bit, but you would do so at a 2 spice discount. And so that's why it might be important to take these out of order, because you might want to gain this 2 spice before then gaining a technology at a 2 spice discount. And so if you're getting multiple of these symbols at a time, like if you go to this space and you're starting at the bottom, you may want to go up and then recall it and take one of these rewards right away. Or alternatively, you might want to go up twice so that the next time you get one of these symbols, you can recall it and get more, more rewards. So that's basically how the shipping track works. I will point out that Viscount Moritani, the signet ring ability is whenever they get their signet ring, they can spend 1 spice to then take a shipping action. Now the rivals, whenever they take a shipping action, they will always advance to the second space and then recall. They will never go to the top space. So whenever they get here, they will recall at the next opportunity. So if they were, if the rival is on the 1 space and then they went to this space, they would go up and then recall. They would never recall here. Like I said, they'll always take the Solari. And as usual, when any rival gains influence, they always take influence with whichever one of the factions they have the least influence with, and you choose in a tie. So now that we understand the shipping track a little bit better, let's look at these 2 spaces. So smuggling, it's got this yellow desert icon. You go there, you gain 1 Solari, and you get 1 shipping symbol. So again, you can either advance 1 or recall it. Once you're at the top, your only option, of course, is to recall. Once you're at the bottom, your only option is to advance. So you get 1 symbol there. This other space, interstellar shipping, gives you that shipping symbol twice. But in order to go to that space, you must have 2 or more influence with the Spacing Guild. So I really like that. It's pretty thematic. It's kind of similar to this Siege Tabor, which must have 2 influence with the Fremen in order to go there. So we're kind of familiar with the mechanic, but that's kind of cool to see it used in a new way. And then, of course, in addition to seeing the shipping symbol on these 2 spaces, potentially on combat cards and on this ability here, you're probably going to see them on some of these new Imperium Row cards as well. So be aware of that. The next thing we need to add is the Planet X sideboard from the title of the expansion. So it can go just right there. And on that board, we need to add these technology tiles. There are 18 of them. So you just shuffle them up. They've all got the same back. And you're going to make 3 stacks of 6, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. Probably as sloppy as possible, but The top tile of each stack will be face up so everybody can see it. And so these tech tiles are things that can be acquired, and they give you either one-time or ongoing abilities. And I'm going to say they are pretty cool. I'm excited by these too. So let's look at what's going on over here. So first there's this top space, Tech Negotiator, and you'll notice there are two spaces here. They are both these green Lands Red Council type spaces. So even though we have two fewer here in the Lands Red area, we have two new green spaces here on the export. So there are just as many green spaces as there were before, or I should say pentagon shaped spaces, these green pentagons here. All right, so one of them is Tech Negotiator. So you can send an agent there, and then you will gain 1 persuasion, similar to the Hall of Oratory that's now gone. So it works the same way. So you can still get your 1 persuasion that way. But then you may also take one of these two actions. So this action looks very similar to this. It is gain attack. This is at a 1 spice discount. This one was at a 2 spice discount. So similar idea. So on the top left of each of these tech tiles is a amount of spice. So we've got 4, 4, and 2 in this example. That is how much spice you need to pay in order to gain the tech tile. So again, if you are on the shipping track, you can get a 2 spice discount. The minimum is 0. You could gain a tech for 0 spice, like if you use this 2 spice discount here to get this 2 spice tech, that would be fine. You would just get it for 0, but you can never get it for less than 0. You can never gain spice from buying a tech. No negative numbers. Now I should also point out that these spice discounts, you might find similar things elsewhere in the game, such as on these Imperium Row cards or perhaps on these Intrigue cards. You may never combine these tech discounts together. So if you ever have, like, let's say a card from Imperium Row, just making this up, that says gain a tech for a 2 spice discount, and then you also are recalling this, you can't get 4 spice off and grab one of these two for free. You pick one of the 2s or the other. So if you've got multiple, just pick the one that's the best and then ignore the others. Now, sometimes you either might not have enough spice to buy a tech when you go to this spot, even with the 1 spice discount, or you might not be interested in any of the face-up techs that are there. So there's a second action here, and that action is to send a negotiator. So if you choose to send a negotiator, you will take 1 troop from your supply and place it in this area here. Now, any number of players can have any number of troops there, but it does have to come from your supply. It cannot come from your garrison or anywhere else. Then in the future, anytime you are acquiring a new tech, you can, instead of spending spice, you can return one of these troops from here to your supply in place of 1 spice. And you can do that any number of times. So if I were to get 3 negotiators here, and then I go to Tech Negotiator, and I want to acquire 1 tech for a 1 spice discount, maybe I want this one for a cost of 3 spice, 1, 2, 3. So the negotiators can be combined with the discounts. So that's pretty handy. And of course, negotiators can be combined with actual spice too. So again, same example, I go to Tech Negotiator, I get a 1 spice discount. I want this 4 spice card. So now it costs 3, 2, 1. So I pay 1 spice, and the negotiators that you've removed return to your supply. Now let's talk about techs and the rivals here for a moment. So the rivals will behave a little bit differently in Rise of Ix. They will not exchange 7 spice for a victory point as they normally would in the base game. Instead, they're going to hoard spice. That behavior will not change until the first level 3 conflict. Here we go. So these are all 2s. Until the first level 3 conflict is flipped and is faced up. As soon as that happens, the behavior will revert, and then on their turn, they will exchange spice in quantities of 7 for a victory point. But up until that time, they will just continue to amass spice. And then whenever they get one of these House of Gaul cards that allows them to gain a tech, they will gain one of the techs. So to gain a tech, first of all, they can only gain techs that have this little blue dot in the bottom right-hand corner. So these 2 techs have it. This one does not. So if at any time all 3 techs on the top of the stack do not have the little House Hagal symbol there in the bottom right, then you will immediately trash the tech, the face-up tech from the tallest stack, whichever stack is tallest. You will trash it and reveal the next one. And if multiple stacks are tied for tallest, then you will trash whichever one is further up on the planet here. So you'd favor that one, and then this one second, and this one last. So you will do that, again, anytime there are no House Hagal techs available on top. And if you trash one, reveal the next, and it's still not House Hagal, you continue to do that process until there's at least one available. And again, that happens at any time, not just at the time that a rival is trying to acquire one. So if it's your turn and there's 3 techs out and only one of them has House Hagal, and you take it, and the next one has no House Hagal, you then resolve that immediately. Start trashing techs until you get 1 House Hagal tech available. I should also mention, if at any time one of these piles is completely empty, it's just empty for the rest of the game. So then you'll just have fewer options to pick from. So when a rival is acquiring a tech, they will use as many negotiators as they have first. They'll completely do that before they start spending any of their spice. And then of the House Hagal techs that are available, they will always prefer to buy the most expensive one that they can afford. And so with all that in mind, we can now look at the Signet Ring ability of Prince Vernius. It is gain a tech or send a negotiator. So first, he's going to try and gain a tech, going through the whole process that I just described, trying to buy the most expensive one with that House Hagal symbol that he can afford, preferring to use negotiators over using spice. And of course, if it is a space like this one that has a discount, they get the discount as well. And so if he cannot buy any tech, then he will instead send a negotiator here to be used in the future. So that's this Signet Ring ability. And then the techs work pretty much the same way for the rivals as they do for you. But some of them are called out in the back of the rule book with a little description on here's how it works for the rival. So I'm not going to go through all of them. You can find that in the back of the book, but just know that that's there. And then while we're talking about techs, a couple other things. When you gain a tech tile, if there is something in this banner on the left-hand side, it's kind of similar to the banner on the right-hand side of these Imperium Row cards. This is just something you gain immediately. And then when you gain a tech tile, keep it face up in front of you for the remainder of the game. The directions are there on each card for what to do. Like this one allows you to trash this card in order to do something. Some of them have ongoing effects, like every round start, draw a card, and then there's something at the end game. And then some of them will have this symbol. This is a flip symbol. So these can only be used once per round. So what this is saying is if you have training drones on your turn, you can flip it to then gain a troop to your garrison, and then it remains face down until the recall phase. And then when we're doing the recall phase, we'll flip all of these face up again and they become active. So there's a couple different mechanics there, but I think these are pretty intuitive. So I'll put that back. That's techs. We went over tech negotiation and this negotiator space. Now we need to talk about this Dreadnought space. So if you send an agent here, you can gain a tech as normal with no tech discount, and you can gain a Dreadnought. So each character starts with 2 Dreadnoughts in their supply. Oh, look at that. I forgot about these. When we put the CHOAM board out, don't forget to put the Mentat on it, your own Swordmaster, and if you're playing, depending on your difficulty, you place this 5 Solari token on the Mentat space to remind you that this space costs 5 instead of 2. That's how veteran mode works. Don't forget those pieces. Anyway, each player starts with 2 Dreadnoughts in their supply. That includes the rivals. When you go to this space, you can move a Dreadnought from your supply to your garrison. Now let's talk about some important distinctions. These cubes, the symbol still means troops. These are troops. So troops and Dreadnoughts are not the same thing. Troops are troops, Dreadnoughts are Dreadnoughts. Dreadnoughts have their own symbol, but combined, when you have the option of either or, they are called units. So this symbol is telling you to recruit a Dreadnought. This symbol is telling you to recruit a troop. But when you see this combat symbol, and then you can push 2 units into combat now instead of 2 troops. So if we go, for example, to Siege Tabor, you can recruit 1 troop and push them into combat, and then because it has a combat symbol, push up to 2 units from your garrison in. So you could decide to use 2 troops, or a troop and a Dreadnought, or 1 troop, or 1 Dreadnought, or none. Those would be all of your options. But when you see that combat symbol now, If you have a one or more Dreadnought in your garrison, it is treated as one unit, and you may push up to 2 units from your garrison into the combat. Now, Dreadnoughts are piece limited, so you can only have 2, and once you've recruited the second, if you go back to this space, you can just only get the tech. You can't do anything with that Dreadnought piece, because that just means to recruit it from your supply to your garrison. Once you've got both of them on the board, they never return to your supply as far as I've seen. So let's look at how Dreadnoughts change in combat. First of all, when you're calculating combat, swords are worth 1, troops are worth 2. Each of your Dreadnoughts is worth 3. So if you can get both Dreadnoughts in there, that would be worth 6. So they're a little bit stronger than troops. The second thing is, when you win a combat with, when you are the winner and you win a combat and you have at least 1 Dreadnought in the combat, you take this Dreadnought after the combat is complete and you place it on one of these flag spaces, so Imperial Basin or Arakeen or Carthag, and it acts as having a flag there. So if you or anyone else comes to that space during the next round, then you gain the reward that's listed there. And this is interesting because if another player has a flag, so they control, say, Carthag, I can place this over their flag. And now if anyone goes to Carthag, only I gain the benefit and theirs is blocked. So if it were this situation and I took first place here, I would gain 2 victory points. This would happen to be battle for Imperial Basin. So I can place a flag on Imperial Basin. And then this is not optional. You must place your Dreadnought on one of these 3 spaces. And the only other thing to remember is that if somebody else already has a Dreadnought out there, there can only be 1 Dreadnought per space. So if it looked like this, and now I just won this combat, I'm going to place my flag there. I place my Dreadnought anywhere where there's not already a Dreadnought, but I can cover up flags. So I probably wouldn't want to cover up my own flag that I just placed here. I'd probably want to cover the rivals like this. And then as you are cleaning up combat, any previous Dreadnoughts are then recalled from wherever they are. So there's only going to be 1 out there at a time, and that is done during combat cleanup when you recall the old ones. Now, the other thing to note is if I had just won this combat, if I had more than 1 Dreadnought in that combat, or if I had lost the combat, in either case, you can only place 1 Dreadnought on top of one of these to control one of these 3 locations. Any Dreadnoughts that are remaining after a combat return to the garrison. They do not come back to the supply, so they're pretty durable. So that makes them strong. That means you'll always have something in your garrison, sort of. But if I only had, for example, 1, or in this case, Red had 1, apparently he won the combat the previous round and placed this here. Now the next round, well, his Dreadnought's occupied, so he's not able to use the following round. But then after the next combat, you take the old Dreadnought and you return it to the garrison that it came from. So let me walk through all that one time quickly just to recap it. So when you go to the Dreadnought space, or anytime you're able to reveal that symbol, perhaps through other means here, then you gain a Dreadnought from your supply to your garrison. The Dreadnought is a unit. It is not a troop, but when you have a combat space, you can deploy up to 2 units of your choice from your garrison into the combat. If you do not win the combat, but you have a Dreadnought, then at the end of combat, you return the Dreadnought to your garrison, not to your supply. If you do win the combat and you have a Dreadnought in it, then you must take that Dreadnought and place it on one of these 3 locations that does not already have a Dreadnought. So maybe we'll go there. And after doing that, any Dreadnoughts that are already on the map are then returned to the garrison of the player who placed them. And Dreadnoughts are each worth 3 combat power. And then a Dreadnought controlling one of these 3 locations acts just like a flag would, but if you place it on top of a flag, then only the person who owns a Dreadnought gets the benefits that round, not the person with the flag. It's effectively covered. Now let's talk about Dreadnoughts and the rivals real quick. There's nothing special about how the rivals acquire their Dreadnoughts, but if they win a battle with a Dreadnought, they'll place it just like you would. They will always prefer to place it over another player's flag if possible. Now, if there are multiple options, or if there are no other player flags on the map, then they will prefer Imperial Basin first, Arakeen second, and Carthag third. Otherwise, the rivals, if they've got Dreadnoughts in their garrisons, will always prefer to push a Dreadnought into combat over pushing a troop into combat. So that's how Dreadnoughts work. They're a fun addition to the game as well. All right, narrator here, interrupting myself. I did realize after I filmed this that there was an important thing that I forgot to teach. So let me jump in real quickly and add one more thing, and that is some of the new icons you will find on the cards. So we've only got a couple pieces out here, but for this example, we're going to assume that I am the blue player and my opponent is the red player. So the first new icon we need to talk about, here I'll put this over here, is this one right here, this sort of brownish card with a down arrow. That new icon means discard. So in order to trigger this effect, if I play this on my agent turn and I'm going to send an agent to one of these valid locations, I may also discard a card from my hand of my choice. And it must be an Imperium card, not an Intrigue card. It has to be this type of card. But I would discard it immediately. So I'd place it in the discard pile next to my leader, and then I would gain this effect. And in this case, the effect is to draw a card. So if I have any more agent turns I'm planning on taking this round, what this effectively is doing is minimizing my my choices, because I'm going to have one less card in hand with which to play with icons on it to send my agent somewhere. Or if I've got my reveal turn coming up as well, if there's any swords on it or persuasion on it, I'm not gonna be able to use that in my reveal turn because it'll be in my discard pile. So that's sort of the cost of discarding a card, but then you get to, in this case, draw a card. So anyway, the discard icon is new. So that's what it looks like. That's how it works. The next icon to show you is this unload icon, which is a discard icon and a trash icon next to each other with an arrow, and they're next to the reveal effect. So this is kind of an interesting new twist. This card, if I play it for my agent turn, there is no agent effect, but I can send my agent to any of these desert spaces, right? But if I play this on my reveal turn, I get the reveal benefit. In this case, it is the freighter icon, so it means I could move up on one of these tracks, or if I'm already advanced on one of those tracks, I could bring my my freighter back to the beginning of the track. So during the reveal turn, this all works as normal. Now this unload icon here means if this card ever gets discarded or trashed, I also get to gain this effect at that time. So if this was in my hand and I played this card, I could choose to then discard Freighter Fleet, put it in my discard pile, and immediately advance on this track. And now that I've paid this cost of discarding this, I could then draw a new card into my hand for Truthsayer. Now, similarly, nothing special about this card. This has the trash icon. So when you play this on your agent turn, you can send an agent to a desert space, and then optionally you can trash a card to recruit 2 troops to your garrison. So I could choose, again, to trash this card, and because it has this unload icon, when I trash it, I would get to advance on the freighter track. Or optionally, again, recall this back down to the bottom of the track and gain my rewards. Now let's look at another example. This card here has this guild chief administrator has this cool effect where you if you discard a card, then you can trash a card. These can be the same card. So I could play this, send my agent somewhere, choose to discard to pay the cost, this freighter fleet to advance my track, and then now because I've paid the cost of discarding freighter fleet, I can trash a card, and I don't have to, but I could choose to trash the same card, which would then get me to either advance or recall my freighter fleet again. So that's a really cool combo. So that is the discard icon, and then this is the unload icon, and that's how that works. So you'll find this unload icon on a number of new cards. And then the other important thing we need to talk about is the infiltration icon. So there are only 7 cards in the deck, 1 of each type that has this icon. So you'll see that on these cards it has the regular agent icon, but it's also got half an agent on it and sort of this colored border around it that looks different than the other agent icons. So these are the infiltration icons. And the way this works is, let's grab, let's say this one here. Again, we'll pretend for this example that I am the blue player and it's my turn. I'm taking my agent turn, and let's say I play this card. The only agent icon here is for a Bene Gesserit spot, but this infiltration icon said what it means is I can place my agent on a spot that already has an agent so long as it is only enemy agents and not my own agents. So I cannot be blocked from these Bene Gesserit spots. So then I would place my agent there. Nothing happens with your opponent's agent. It stays there as normal. You just both get to occupy that spot. You gain all the normal rewards. You trigger everything as normal on the card. Now let's use a different example. Let's say I played this card. This has the Fremen infiltrator icon on it. So if this was my agent turn, I wanted to place this. Because there is already one of my own agents on Hardy Warriors, I could not use Infiltrator because you can't infiltrate yourself. You can only infiltrate against enemy or opponent agents. So I would not be able to go to Hardy Warriors. I could only use this to go to Still Suits. So I should point out that you don't have to use this infiltration effect. If the board looked like this, I would be free to send my agent to either of the Fremen spots. But if it looked like this with an opponent's agent on a Fremen spot, I could still send my agent to either spot. If the board instead looked like this, then I could infiltrate on Hardy Warriors where there's an opponent's agent, but I could not go to Still Suits. You cannot go to a place where you already have an agent. And I don't know if there's a way to trigger it, but if there was a space with more than one opponent already there, you would also be able to use Infiltrator. So if this was red and say there was another green one here, I could still send my blue agent here. So single space can hold any number of agents as long as we're using these Infiltrator effects. Now, something important to point out, if you have a game effect that gives you more icons on the card you're playing, those icons exist exactly as they exist here. So none of these have the Infiltrator icon. So this card still has Infiltrate here on the Fremen, but it would not gain Infiltrate for Bene Gesserit and Spacing Guild and Emperor. These would just be normal placement. So I wouldn't be able to use it on Fold Space, for example. So do keep that in mind. And then the rulebook also points out if the Imperium card, the Voice, is currently in play, this does not allow you to override that effect. That is a separate effect. That's not what Infiltrator is overriding. So again, the new effects that we talked about here are Discard, Unload, and Infiltration. So those are pretty important. I didn't want to leave them out, but now we'll get back to the rest of the video. And so the last thing I need to talk about before going into the epic mode is the House Hagal deck, because there are some changes. So take your House Hagal deck, set it up the same way you would for Dune Imperium, the base game, by which I mean include all of the cards with a 1P on them and remove any cards that say 2P, because we're not playing a two-player game. Then you're going to find these 4 cards, 2 Hall of Oratory and 2 Rally Troops, and you're going to remove them because those are 2 of the spaces that went away when we added this CHOAM overlay board. So these 4 cards, 2 Rally Troops and 2 Hall of Oratory, go away. Now we're going to get the new House Hagal cards that came with Rise of Ix. Again, there are 2 that say 2-player. They're both Dreadnought. You're going to remove those, and instead you're going to add these 2 1-player Dreadnoughts and these 2 1-player Tech Negotiation. So there are just as many green cards or green Pentagon cards in the deck now as there were before. We're removing 4 and adding 4, but the ones we're adding now go to Tech Negotiation and Dreadnought. So these Dreadnought ones will try and recruit a Dreadnought from their supply, and it says if this rival already has 2 Dreadnoughts, reveal another card. Otherwise, they'll just reveal a Dreadnought and gain a tech. And then if we look at Tech Negotiation, it's the same as what's on that space. They're going to try and acquire a tech at a 1 spice discount. If they can't do that, they will send a negotiator from their troop supply to this negotiation spot. So those are those new cards. And then there are these 3 as well. So this one is for interstellar shipping, so it would go here. Now, this is the first time a rival is trying to go to a space that has a faction influence requirement. So this says, if this rival doesn't have 2 or more influence with the Spacing Guild, reveal another card. So they have to meet that requirement just like we do to go to that space. Otherwise, if they can go there, they gain 2 shipping bonus, and we already kind of talked about how that works with the rivals. And then there are these 2 spaces. So these are kind of interesting. These are, again, trying to send the rival to interstellar shipping, but in these cases, it gives you an alternative. So this one on top says, if the rival has 2 or more influence with the Spacing Guild, go to interstellar shipping and gain 2 shipping icons. If they have 0 or 1 influence with the Spacing Guild, instead send them to the Fold space and then gain 1 influence with the Spacing Guild. So this is saying their influence isn't high enough to go there, so they're going to try and raise their influence so they can go there later. And again, if you can't complete either of these, then you would, discard it and flip the next card. Similarly, this one says go to interstellar shipping if you have 2 or more influence with the Spacing Guild and gain 2 shipping icons. Or if you have 0 or 1 influence with the Spacing Guild, go to the smuggling space and gain just 1 shipping icon. So that's how these new cards work. So you're just going to take these cards and shuffle them into the House Hagal deck, and then you've got your deck available to play. So let's quickly talk about a couple other variants. One is very simple. It is called Brutal Escalation. This is for folks who are very good at Dune Imperium. This is not a variant that I'm going to play anytime soon. But normally, when you're resolving conflict, you reveal 1 House Hagal card for each of the rivals who is participating in the combat, and they gain the swords listed at the bottom of the card. What the Brutal Escalation variant says is, if it is a level 3 conflict, then each rival who is participating in combat reveals 2 cards and gains all of the combined swords that are there. So this is just going to make the rivals very strong in all level 3 combats, if that's something you want to do. So that's called Brutal Escalation. The other variant is called Epic Game Mode, and it works at any player count. There's no changes for solo. And this just makes the game longer and more intense. So the first thing it does is, instead of 10 victory points being a trigger during the recall phase for the end game, now a player must have at least 12 victory points during the recall phase to then trigger the end game. So that is going to make the game a little bit longer by itself. And then all the other changes are during setup. So the first change is with the conflict deck. So normally you have 1 level 1 conflict and 4 level 3s on the bottom with 5 2s in the middle. When you're setting up, don't use a level 1 and use an extra level 3. So there will still be 10 cards, but it's going to be 5 2s and then 5 3s. That is the first change for Epic Mode. And then I said 12 victory points is needed to trigger the end game during the recall phase. As normal, if you get through the entire 10 cards of the conflict deck, that would also trigger the end of the game during the recall phase. Next, you're going to need these cards that I mentioned earlier, Control the Spice. These are the Epic Game Mode starting cards. You're going to find your starting cards here, remove, you've got 2 copies of Dune, the Desert Planet, remove 1 of them, and replace it with Control the Spice in your starting deck. So I'll just leave these here. So it doesn't get discarded. This gets removed from the game. So you've got still 10 starting cards, but only 1 Dune the Desert Planet in your deck, and the other is Control the Spice. So you can see they both have a yellow triangle icon for placing your agents, but Dune the Desert Planet has nothing that happens on your agent turn, whereas Control the Spice allows you to spend 1 spice to then trash a card and recruit 1 troop. And then if you play this card in your reveal turn, Dune the Desert Planet gives you 1 persuasion, whereas Control the Spice gives you 1 persuasion and 1 spice. So it's a stronger card. That's pretty neat. And again, that other copy of Dune the Desert Planet just gets removed. And then each player will start with 5 troops in their garrison instead of 3. So got a little bit more firepower early in the game. And finally, each player starts the game with 1 Intrigue card, which these 2 rivals should have had the whole time. They always start with an Intrigue card. So they would have started with a second Intrigue card. I would have started with 1. And if a human player is Viscount Moritani, deal out these cards before using this intelligence ability. So let me just read through that real quick in case you didn't know. This ability for this leader says, at the start of the game, look at the top 2 cards of the Intrigue deck. Keep 1 and put the other back on top. So you get to, look at 2 and then keep 1 of them, which is nice to have that option. You get an Intrigue card right at the start of the game. But then also the next person who takes an Intrigue card, you know what it is. So if you're playing the Epic variant and a human player is Viscount Moritani, it says deal out 1 Intrigue card to every player. Then they get to use that ability where they look at the deck take the top 2, keep 1, place the other on the top of the deck. And that's it. That's all there is to it for the epic game mode. So again, it'll just make it a little bit longer. You can see this card being in your deck at the start of the game is going to escalate some things. Having more troops at the beginning will make these first combats a little bit different. So that's all pretty interesting. But that is it. That is what you need to know to play a solo game of Dune Imperium using Rise of Ix. If you have any questions, if you think I missed anything, let me know down below in the comments. I'd be happy to talk to you about it there. And if you found this useful, please let me know by leaving a like on this video. If you want to see more Dune content, you don't want to miss it, then be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet. And if you're about to play Rise of Ix with somebody and they don't know the rules, share this video so they can learn them. Otherwise, I've got more Dune Imperium stuff coming, including a solo playthrough with Rise of Ix. So be sure to check that out if you'd like to see this in action. So that's what I've got this time on Table for One. Thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you in the next video.